All right. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Danny Plogger, and I'm Deputy Director of the Virginia Transit Association. I want to welcome everybody to the first of VTA's and the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation's Lunch and Learn virtual webinar series. VTA is incredibly excited about this partnership and the opportunity to offer our members and the Commonwealth's transit community a deeper dive into the planning challenges, issues, and processes with insight from the experts at DRPT. This series would not be possible without the support and expertise of DRPT, especially Alan and Bethel. DRPT is an agency that is not only celebrating their 30th anniversary, but one that continues to lead the way in implementing innovative approaches to managing the challenges and opportunities facing public transportation in the 21st century. This webinar series is just one example of DRPT and VTA thinking outside the box to take best practices from the pages of reports and to bring them right to your desktop, hopefully in an interactive and engaging approach. Today's presentation is primarily giving you an overview of this year's series of programs. However, if you have any questions during the presentation, please put them in the Q&A box and I'll ask them at the appropriate time. One last bit of housekeeping. Registration is now open for VTA's 2023 Annual Conference and Expo in Virginia Beach, as are nominations for our annual awards, which will be presented to the winners at this year's conference. You can register for the conference, nominate your agency for one of our annual awards, or learn more about our event by visiting vatransit.com/annual conference 2023. Now, this afternoon, I have the pleasure of introducing our partners in this webinar series and today's presenters. Bethel supports DRPT's Northern Virginia office in Alexandria. She's a graduate of the University of Virginia and a licensed professional engineer in the Commonwealth. Bethel began her career at the Virginia Department of Transportation, where she was selected for their prestigious 24-month core development program. From there, Bethel continued to fill progressively challenging engineering and leadership roles, including residency administrator. Since joining the good side, aka DRPT, in 2022, in addition to supporting many of Virginia's largest transit facilities, engineering and construction projects, Bethel administers DRPT's GIS-based construction project program management portal, is an accomplished project manager, smart scale guru, and is focusing on the ever-expansive low and no emission infrastructure, including electric vehicle charging. Alan manages DRPT's statewide engineering program. He's a graduate of the Virginia Military Institute and has a 30-year career both in the public and private sectors, working with structural engineers and transportation construction projects. Prior to joining DRPT, Alan also worked at the Virginia Department of Transportation, providing leadership as the Assistant State Construction Engineer, and then as Louisa's Residency Engineer. He's an experienced at providing excellent customer service to local partners and stakeholders, and in his current role, he's been traveling statewide, assisting the progression of projects from feasibility to construction. Alan has also been working very closely with the Department of General Services and VDOT to streamline the transit shelter policies and procedures to support the goal of each transit agency, and one of our goals of expanding more shelters and infrastructure for those last foot assets for public transportation. So please grab your lunch, sit back, and enjoy a great program from our partners, Alan and Bethel. Turning it over to you two.
All right, Danny, thank you so much for that introduction. We really do appreciate this opportunity for outreach. We've had several projects underway across the state, the transit projects, and Bethel and I have learned a great deal since joining DRPT last year. So we're excited to share everything that we've learned so far, look for opportunities to support. We really do thank you and VTA for this opportunity for outreach. And certainly while we have the opportunity, we want to thank our director, Jennifer DeBrule, cares such a great deal for each of you in the transit industry. And she has empowered Bethel and me to seek opportunities to support you, to seek knowledge that we can share. And without her support and being a champion for you, we wouldn't be here today either. So Danny, thanks so much. We really do appreciate the opportunity. Through this webinar series, we're going to promote the DRPT's engineering goals, opportunities for outreach and support, lessons learned, and best practices that we've got across several of the construction projects. The focus is really going to be transit capital construction project development and delivery. The folks here, when I mention a project, they're very quick to add the caveat that it's a construction project. A project includes a scope, schedule, and budget, and that could include purchasing a vehicle, installing a ridership counting system. Project could be a lot of things. So the focus of our webinar series is really going to be construction projects, those facilities that you're endeavoring to build. We are seeking needs and solutions along the way, so we really look forward to the industry's feedback. Bethel and I are developing guidance documents, policy documents, expanding the purple book and the blue book. So feedback on needs for delivering projects is something that we certainly hope to gain from this webinar series. And we also look forward, many of you have either recently developed or delivered or are currently in the process of delivering a transit facility construction project. We want to make sure along the way, the VTA's got some great members out there, and we're going to include you along the way as part of this webinar series. All right, Beth.
Good morning, everyone. So like what was mentioned, today is going to be more of an overview of the series for the rest of the year, introduce who we are, and just offer a chance to receive feedback about the topics that are important to you that we can review moving forward. And so in the last year that Alan and I have been with the agency, we've received questions and walked through like the topics that you see listed, you know, project development delivery, cost estimates, value engineering, like lead and sustainability. And so those are the things that we wanted to start off and like highlight this year and really take a deep dive. And so, you know, the schedule for the rest of the year is listed, but we wanted to say that we're open to other topics that are relevant to you, anything that you want us to elaborate more about, and like focus on any hot button issues that your agency has that we can find a way to fit into these webinars to make them as helpful to you as possible, because our goal is to support you and your agencies and the development of your projects. So like as we continue, feel free to ask questions. We want to know what you're interested in, anything that we miss, additional topics, etc. So we're looking forward to this being just a benefit to you and the work that you do in your localities moving forward.
All right, a little background. One of the goals of the webinar series that we have is to develop and promote a common language. If you look out across the construction project development and delivery theater, there are several bodies of knowledge out there. They all speak a similar language, but they have different dialects. PMI, the Project Management Institute, CMAA, the Construction Management Association of America, AASHTO, VDOT, NACTO. There are a lot of acronyms, and they each have their own nuanced way of talking about and promoting guidance for delivering and developing projects. To the extent possible, the guidance and the policy that DRPT promotes for facility capital improvement construction projects, we're going to attempt to reference FTA's taxonomy. Their guidance first, NACTO, VDOT, those three are where, if we do base guidance on a term or a practice, if we reference a cost estimating guide, we're going to look to those three references first. Concurrently, many of you have developed guidance documents for different things, shelters, transit stops, and so on. And we do want to make sure that we include you. So we're going to have plenty of opportunities for outreach to socialize guidance documents and policies before we memorialize them. But that body of knowledge, that theater that we're going to use as a guide is going to hinge around the Federal Transit Association, NACTO, and then VDOT and down the chain. So We're going to try to speak a common language. And when we talk about project development and delivery, we tend to focus on the major milestones, acquiring a parcel, design, architect and engineering, preliminary engineering, and construction, NEPA. There are many important steps in between those major milestones, from a feasibility study, how to initiate an RFP with an architect or an engineer, when to engage a professional construction management firm and why that's important, what to expect during construction and how to prepare your transit agency for what's coming. We're going to hit a lot of detail in between those major milestones too. We look across the spectrum of projects that are funded across the state. Some of them have a feasibility study in hand, and they're trying to determine what to do to take it that next step. And we want to promote not only what that step is, but the DRPT is here to help you achieve that next step. When you get to construction, I'll use a kitchen renovation as an example. Miss Saunders and I renovated our kitchen recently, and you never really appreciate how you live in a construction project until you renovate a kitchen. All of you who are endeavoring to deliver a construction project, if you don't have the luxury of having a new facility in a new location, you're either going to demo and rebuild what you've got, you're going to expand and move from one to the other, you're going to need to work in your kitchen, eat in your kitchen while you're renovating it and building it. So preparing for that is also a critical step that really begins at feasibility. Through design, into procurement, your invitation for bids, and into construction, you really need to plan for that project and how to prepare your team for what's coming. Some of the transit agency staff, we do appreciate that some of you do have a project manager or two. Many of you wear a lot of hats and may have only advanced a construction project or two in your entire career. You're not resourced with teams of engineers and project managers, and that's where we as DRPT plan to focus our oversight and support moving forward. All right, Beth.
So again, some of you may not have gotten a chance to meet us. I think Alan's just started last February. I started last April with DRPT, so we haven't gotten a chance to meet everyone yet. So currently Alan and I are the DRPT engineering team. It's the two of us, and we support statewide rail and transit projects. And we also have a team of consultants that support us, which are STV, WSP, and HDR. And Alan works out of our Richmond office and mainly supports our local partners south of Fredericksburg, while I work out of the Alexandria office and support the Northern Virginia partners. But we work together to provide consistency and just oversight to DRPT's statewide engineering construction project program. And so that means that we support you, like Alan said, through the entire project life cycle, not just those big milestones, but also everything in between. Like you mentioned, feasibility, NEPA, right-of-way acquisition, RFP development, everything down, to construction administration and closeout. And so, we review design submittals, 30, 60, 90, 100. We, conduct value engineering reviews. We can attend project progress meetings, site visits, and just we're available for any and everything, whatever support each agency needs in order to move a project forward to the next stage, and just support your delivery. And then, like we have noted here, like what's been mentioned, that we're taking steps to become more versed in the topics that are, really prevalent statewide. So like transit stops and amenities, electric vehicle planning and infrastructure, those are things that we're making sure that we're learning about so that we can be a better asset to you all as you plan for the future and develop projects.
All right, for when we get to April, we're going to take a deep dive into the construction project development and delivery process. We're going to reference the construction project management handbook that FTA has developed and use that as a guide. There's a lot of great steps in there along the way to walk a transit agency through a construction project process. Whether you're building a new facility on a new location, or renovating or expanding your facility, adding a new wash bay or an EV charger, each of those to us is a project. It has a scope, a schedule, and a budget. And planning your project in a manner that's sustainable over time is critical. And if you take a look around this virtual room that we're all in right now, for those of you who currently have a construction project and you're building a facility, if you raise your hands, you don't need to do this, but how many of you were in your current role when the project was conceived, when the feasibility study was initiated, when the parcel was required, when the architect and engineer developed the scope and the plans, or when the construction project started or when it ended? Many of you were in a different role during some phase of project development and delivery. Coming up with a comprehensive plan that is transparent and sustainable over time, that if one of you takes another step, if you're currently the project manager or the director, or you're responsible for a project, but building a framework for your project so you can pass the torch from project manager to project manager to project manager is critical. We're developing schedule templates from feasibility all the way through project closeout. And there are a lot of different great tools out there to do that. Excel, a crayon, and a napkin. The plan is the important part. So for the April 28th webinar, we're really going to take a deep dive into the entire project development and delivery process, and what guidance documents out there, what tools, get some feedback from you, share some of the schedules that we have for active facility construction projects, and make sure that you're aware of what tools are out there. So when you're planning your project before feasibility begins, you can contact us, we can get together, talk about scope, needs, and ways that you can establish a good, reasonable schedule for your project, some of the steps that you should consider along the way, and the tools that are there. So we will take a deep dive into the development and delivery and really focus on some of those important steps between the major milestones that are frequently overlooked but require time and resources. Okay, Beth.
So the next webinar after that, June 23rd, we're planning on talking about cost estimates. And I think everyone can agree that having a reliable and up-to-date cost estimate is really important for the success of a project. And everyone has experienced that through the pandemic over the last several years, that there has been a huge fluctuation in prices and lead times for materials. So ultimately, like, our goal is to make sure that all existing cost estimates are current, that they reflect the anticipated year of construction, whenever that may be, and that those and any new project estimates are comprehensive and include like every facet of the project: design, construction, professional services. And so for this webinar, we plan to drill down, into VTA recommended practices and their guide to cost estimate development. And we plan to bring in some industry partners to share the tools that they use to create reliable estimates. Because we know that once a project has been funded at a specific budget, it can be difficult to acquire additional funding if the budget increases. And that can be a whole other issue as well when we bring in Smart Scale. And so we want to be able to share what the best practices are, and for us to partner with you and support you at every stage of the project so that we can do those reviews and assist you with that, just to ensure that they are accurate and that that they don't prevent or cause any project delays. And so this is our just our plan to help just projects stay on scope, on schedule, and on budget.
All right, thank you, Bethel. August 25th, the webinar topic that we picked in August is a focus on delivery methods. And we get a lot of questions about delivery methods for projects of design, bid, build, design, build. Bethel up in Nova is supporting, is certainly one of the first construction manager at risk projects in the transit industry. And there are other delivery methods out there. Each of them have their own merits and unique advantages. And the transit agency, when they're developing or considering a new capital construction project, needs to consider the delivery method from the onset. Certain projects are much better suited for design bid build. Some may have a better outcome with design build, considering the resources for that specific transit agency. The construction manager at risk, that is a unique model, but it's also a good fit for the right project to shift some of the risk and management of the project over to the contractor. So they each have their own unique. We've also had a couple of questions about public-private partnerships. And that is not only an element during construction where one entity may own the parcel, another entity is going to build it. It's going to include some commercial space, a storefront where they can generate revenue. So there are some great opportunities out there for public-private partnerships. It doesn't need to be delivered that way, but it can still be an element of the solution for the project that you're delivering. So in August, we're really going to take a deep dive into some of the delivery methods and answer any questions that you've got. We get a lot of folks that think design build is the panacea and it pushes all of the risk and saves you money and accelerates delivery. And that's not necessarily the case. Design build can be very challenging because it requires the transit agency and the owner to think through their requirements and needs at a very early stage of project development. And if you don't want a pink lunchroom or a purple entrance door, whatever color of paint is cheapest at the time the contractor installs that door is what you're going to get if you don't specify it explicitly in the contract documents. So when we do go through the delivery methods, we'll talk about some of the merits and advantages of each and answer any questions that you may have for those of you who are planning to advance a project. Okay, Bethel.
And for October 27th, we plan to talk about value engineering. I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with value engineering, but we want to promote it as a benefit to every project, big or small. So value engineering is defined as an organized effort to analyze the function of systems, equipment, facilities, procedures, and supplies by a multidisciplinary group for the purpose of achieving the required function at the lowest total cost. So essentially, it just ensures that every facet of the project aligns with the scope and the purpose while optimizing every dollar that's budgeted and spent on a project. And it's proven to be really successful at reducing costs while maintaining the objectives of a project. So we want to take some time on this day to just share more about the process and how we can use it more moving forward on projects that are funded. It's something that is an independent effort, and we DRPT can utilize that to help agencies identify areas for cost savings and just tighten the scope, make sure that the project is aligned with the scope. Currently, FTA oversight procedure requires that value engineering is used on any major capital projects, and then it's highly encouraged for any non-major capital projects. So it is something that we want to promote and use more moving forward, especially on any major large projects. And we plan to just detail it more on October 27th.
All right, LEED, sustainability. We get a lot of questions about LEED and sustainability. So in December, the topic that we've got slated for that webinar is really taking a dive into LEED, what LEED means, leadership in energy and environmental design. What's in a plaque on the wall? How important is that? Virginia's building code currently addresses many of the merits of LEED Silver already. So we will review LEED, answer any questions that you may have about LEED, talk about the goals of LEED, and ways that you can incorporate that into your project development and delivery without necessarily pursuing that plaque on the wall. Sustainability as well. I mentioned sustainability a little bit earlier, knowing that the design life for your facility is going to be 40 years. You may have some unique facets of your scope, a geothermal HVAC system, for example, that may provide more cost up front, but may be more sustainable and low maintenance over time. So we are going to talk about some sustainable practices in construction, heating solutions, how you can face your building, some good best practices for sustainability. We went down and Civil hosted us, HRT hosted us and took us on a review of some of their facilities and immediately began to point out some of the elements of the project that were difficult to maintain, light bulbs that were tough to change, facets of the roof that may cause leaks in the future and were difficult to access to repair. So when we're talking about sustainability, we're not just talking about cost, we're really looking at maintenance and cost over time. This is also another slide or another webinar where we may be able to introduce a new topic or an additional topic if one of you has something as we progress through the year that you want us to highlight on. So for LEAD, we really will talk about the merits of both and get some outreach, include partners who have recently completed a construction project and now they've taken ownership, it's commissioned, they're using this facility every day, what worked and what didn't, where did they save time, and what are issues or things that they wish they would have done differently in the development and delivery of the project. So there's a lot that we can build into our December 15th webinar, but there's also some opportunity there that if we identify additional topics through this year, we can certainly work them into that last slide. The last webinar, sorry. All right, Danny. Well, that is all that Bethel and I had to go over today, our general overview of the series. So we want to turn it back over to you and see if the industry has any questions or answers that we can talk about now.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you, Bethel. Mariah Ellington asked, please consider discussing progressive design build on August 25th as one of the topics to include. And for the LEAD sustainability, an additional topic might be the implementation of solar panels on facilities. And how does that come about? I know we've seen that in the greater Richmond region happening on some of our schools. How do we transition that to some of our transit facilities as well? Might be interesting, but let's see if there's another. Sorry, it was just asking if these programs are actually 3 hours or if that was an error. That is an error. My apologies for that. We are at the end of primarily today's program, but thank you again, Alan and Bethel, for everybody on. We'll send an email out. If you want any deeper dive into any of the topics that will be discussed over the coming year, you can send the three of us a response and saying, please make sure to touch on XYZ. Also, we're hoping that this ongoing series will extend beyond December. And so if there's also any additional topics that you would like to kind of put into the pipeline for the 2024 version of Lunch and Learn, please send those along as well. This is a very exciting series, and I want to thank Alan and Bethel and DRPT for agreeing to partner with us and participate in this exciting series. And thank you all again for joining us on a beautiful Friday to learn a little bit about what the series means and what's coming down the pipeline. And we will see you all in April. So thank you again, and please look out for an email from us asking for if you have any additional topics or a deeper dive on the topics that will be discussed this year. So thank you again. And thank you, Alan and Bethel.
Thank you, Danny, very much. We look forward to seeing everybody in April.
Thank you.